When the time comes and the opportunity is right for me to make those decisions, obviously I've always had a home in Indy, so it could potentially be a home for me again. But I think right now the switching dynamic of my family and everything, I got to do what's best for me. And, that's no hanging my hat on one team or another, but I think it's specifically for me. I got to be selfish about that process. And when I know, you'll know. So we'll see.
This summer, the Indiana Fever have been in the news a lot, and the most recent shocking revelation questions about what will happen to the veteran guard, whether she will stay or leave, and what this means for Indiana's future have been circulating since Erica Wheeler finally broke her silence. With everyone's attention on Caitlin Clark and the massive rebuild of the Fever, Wheeler made some game-changing remarks that, believe me, could change everything for the Fever going into the 2024 WNBA season.
Just culture-wise, I think that Christy came in with a plan, and I was part of that plan, and it was to be a leader, and I think I did a fairly well job in that position, just trying to lead my teammates in a way to give them that 8-year experience that I've gotten, give them that experience that I have gotten from my vets like Tamika Catchings and Breon January.
Stay tuned as we delve deeply into Wheeler's proposals, her opinions about Caitlin Clark, and the actual behind-the-scenes activities in Indiana. Let's begin. The Indiana Fever are at the center of one of the biggest changes in WNBA history. Caitlin Clark's arrival has completely changed the course of the team, and while everyone's attention is on the rookie phenomenon, there is another important plot point that cannot be overlooked. Erica Wheeler has been a veteran leader for the Fever for years, navigating through the highs and lows of a team that was struggling to find its identity. However, now that Indiana is becoming a team that everyone is watching, her role is suddenly in question. Is she staying? Is she seeking a better opportunity elsewhere? How does she feel about Caitlin Clark taking center stage?
You get a short period of time and you just have to figure out little ways and little nuggets to kind of just gain people's trust. And that's what I think is more important. It's just about trust. But then also just having that common goal. And with that leadership, is everybody wanted to just switch the whole culture. Everybody was on board with that. So it wasn't easy, but I think we got the job done. I think we did more.
At last, Erica Wheeler responded to all of these inquiries, and I must say that her remarks provide a wealth of information on what goes on behind the scenes in Indiana. She's talking as someone who has witnessed it all and has a lot to say about what lies ahead, not simply as a player.
I'm getting a lot older, 32, sounds crazy. And then just my mind, just kind of step away from basketball a little bit just to kind of regroup and refresh. I don't have these young legs no more where I can just play 12 months, year round.
Wheeler just started her own podcast, and her first guest was one of the major figures in the Fever, Kelsey Mitchell. From the outset, it was clear that this would not be like the typical media interviews. There was no filter. Wheeler made a bold claim that everyone wants to sit courtside and watch us play. But is she wrong? The Fever went from a team that no one paid attention to a team that was consistently at the bottom of the standings to suddenly being the hottest ticket in the WNBA. Why Caitlin Clark now? Whether you love her or hate her, there's no denying that her impact is unmatched. There were no scripted answers, just two players being straight about what's happening inside the organization. Ticket sales are skyrocketing. Record-breaking sales of merchandise, national attention bigger than ever. Wheeler and Mitchell both acknowledged that Clark's presence has completely shifted the way people view the Fever, and unlike some players who have been hesitant to embrace the media frenzy around Clark, Wheeler gave her full credit. She is a big part of why the world is watching us. We got to give her flowers. That's not something you hear from every WNBA veteran. Some have been frustrated that Clark is getting so much attention while other stars in the league have been grinding for years with barely any recognition. But Wheeler, she sees the bigger picture. For someone who has been in Indiana for years, this is a massive shift. For the first time in a long time, the Fever aren't just hoping to be relevant, they are relevant. That brings us to the biggest question: where does Wheeler fit in? She's been the steady veteran presence in Indiana, guiding the younger players and helping to build a culture. But with Caitlin Clark stepping in as the new face of the team, does that change things? From the way Wheeler spoke, it's clear that she's been thinking about her future. She was careful with her words, but there was definitely a sense of uncertainty. She made it clear that she still considers herself part of the Fever for now, but she also didn't commit to anything beyond that. The reality is, at 32 years old, she's at a point in her career where winning matters more than ever. And let's be real, the Fever haven't exactly been a winning team for a while, so the question becomes, does Wheeler believe Indiana is truly ready to compete, or is she looking for a team that can give her a better shot at a championship during her time with the Fever? She played under 4 different head coaches, and one of the most intriguing things she said was how many changes she's seen in Indiana over the years. She acknowledged that for a long time, Indiana felt like a team that was just trying to figure things out, but now things are different. She talked about how early in her career, she wasn't sure if she would succeed in Indiana. She also acknowledged that she wasn't always sure that her spot was secure. This is significant because, despite Wheeler's successful career, it hasn't always been easy. She's had to prove herself every year, and now that she's a veteran, she's facing another challenge to prove that she still belongs on this team. Wheeler knows it. She's been a leader for this team, but what happens when you bring in a player like Clark, who is expected to take over the offense, run the show, and become the new face of the team? Does she still get significant minutes? Does she take on more of a mentorship role? Or is she gradually being phased out as the Fever enters a new era? Wheeler has been a favorite among fans, but at this point in her career, she needs clarity about her job. If Indiana is unable to provide it, she may seriously consider looking elsewhere. That's something she didn't confirm, but she also didn't deny she's been around long enough to know how this works. The WNBA is a business, and sometimes no matter how much loyalty you have to a team, you have to make a decision that's best for you. That's exactly what she's weighing right now. Does she stay and be part of this exciting new chapter in Indiana, even if her role might be reduced, or does she find a team that will give her more playing time and a bigger chance at a title? It's not an easy choice, and the way she spoke about it on her podcast made it clear that she's still figuring it out. One thing is certain, she's not the type to stick around just for the sake of it. She's competitive, she wants to win, and if she doesn't see that happening in Indiana, she's not afraid to make a move. But at the same time, she clearly loves the Fever. She's invested in this team, and she's excited about what's happening. That's what makes this situation so complicated, because for the first time in years, Indiana finally has a chance to be a contender, and Wheeler, she has to decide if she wants to be part of it. Her comments made it clear that she respects Caitlin Clark. She sees the potential in this team, and she knows that Indiana is on the rise, but the big question remains, where does she fit into all of this? The way she spoke, it sounded like she wants to stay, but only if she still has a real role on this team. If not, well, let's just say that this might not be the last time we hear about Erica Wheeler and free agency rumors, because one thing is for sure, she's not going to be sitting on the bench just to watch the Fever grow. She wants to be part of the action, and if Indiana can't give her that, someone else will. And that's where things get really interesting, because the Fever are building something special, but will Wheeler still be there when it all comes together? That's the big question, and the answer, it's coming sooner than you think. As the WNBA continues to evolve, one thing is becoming clear: the Indiana Fever are no longer just another team. They are at the center of one of the most exciting transformations in recent league history, and Erica Wheeler knows it better than anyone. But with transformation comes change, and Wheeler, she's caught right in the middle of it. After her recent podcast interview with Kelsey Mitchell, fans were left wondering, is Erica Wheeler staying with the Fever, or is she looking for a new opportunity elsewhere? We discussed in part 1 how she has witnessed everything at Indiana, including the hardships, coaching changes, and uncertainty. However, now that the Caitlin Clark era is altering everything, where does that leave Wheeler stand? The situation isn't just about her future, it's about how the Fever are creating their new identity. The Fever haven't been contenders for years, but now they have the talent, the national attention, and a new leader in Caitlin Clark. The difficult part is choosing how to strike a balance between veteran leadership and the need to build around Clark, and that's where on the podcast, Erica Wheeler discussed the amount of change she has seen in Indiana, including 4 different head coaches during her tenure, a roster that changes frequently, and a franchise that, up until now, has never had the stability necessary to compete. However, for the first time in years, the team has a real plan, and that plan centers on Caitlin Clark. Wheeler is aware of and respectful of the fact that Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell are the backbone of this team going forward, but it also means that her role is no longer guaranteed. This is a difficult pill for any veteran player to swallow because, in all honesty, Wheeler is still a talented guard with value, but if the focus is shifting to youth and future development, does she fit into that picture? That's why her next move is so crucial. She is at a crossroads. Should she accept a smaller role in Indiana, continuing to mentor while still contributing off the bench? Or should she seek out a new opportunity that would give her a larger role and a genuine chance to contend for a championship? There is no simple answer. Staying in Indiana makes sense. The Fever are finally headed in the right direction. The team is exciting, the fan base is growing, the energy around the franchise is electric. And let's be honest, playing alongside Caitlin Clark is an opportunity in itself. Clark is one of the most hyped rookies in WNBA history. Playing with her means more exposure, more national TV games, and more opportunities to be seen. That alone is a huge incentive to stay. But on the other hand, what if her minutes start to disappear? What if the Fever decide to prioritize developing younger players over keeping veterans like Wheeler in the rotation? That's where things get tricky, and Wheeler knows it. She's been in the league long enough to understand how this works. She's seen teams move on from veteran players before, and if she sees the writing on the wall, she might decide to leave before she gets pushed out. So if Wheeler does decide to leave, where could she go? That's where things get really interesting, because several teams could use a veteran point guard like Wheeler. She may not be in her prime anymore, but she still brings leadership experience and a solid floor presence, all things that contending teams need. A few teams come to mind. The Dallas Wings, they're in need of a veteran guard to help balance out their back, although they are rebuilding. Court, the Washington Mist may benefit from a consistent veteran presence. The Minnesota Lynx, they're adding pieces and trying to get back to championship form. And what about a return to the Atlanta Dream? That's a team that's on the rise, and Wheeler has history there. The point is, she has options. If she wants to keep playing significant minutes, there are teams that would be willing to give her that chance. But leaving Indiana isn't an easy choice, because here's the thing: Wheeler is loved in Indiana. She's been through the worst times with this franchise, and now that they're finally getting national attention, does she really want to walk away? That's the dilemma. On the podcast, she talked a lot about her journey with the Fever, the struggles, the uncertainty, the growth. But the way she spoke about Caitlin Clark really stood out, because she's not bitter about Clark coming in and taking the spotlight. She's not jealous, she's embracing it. That says a lot about who Wheeler is as a player and a person. She's leader. She understands the bigger picture, and she knows that Clark's success means more success for the entire team. But knowing that and accepting a reduced role are two different things, because let's be real, Wheeler is a competitor. She's not the type to just sit on the bench and watch. So if the Fever can't guarantee her a real role, she's going to have to make a tough decision: stay and accept whatever role they give her, or leave and find a team that still sees her as a key player. That's what she's weighing right now, and it's not an easy choice, because both options have risks. If she stays in Indiana, she might get pushed to the side as the team focuses on its young core. If she leaves, she might have to start over with a new team, new system, and new expectations. But one thing is clear: whatever she chooses, she's going to do it on her terms. Wheeler has never been the type to let others decide her fate. She's earned the right to make this decision for herself, and whichever way she goes, one thing is certain: she's not done yet. So what happens next? That's the big question, because as much as this is about Wheeler's future, it's also about the direction of the Indiana Fever as a whole. They're building something special, and Wheeler has to decide if she's going to be part of it or if it's time to move on. Either way, the WNBA world will be watching, because this isn't just about one player, it's about a franchise stepping into a new era, and where Wheeler fits into that picture, we're about to find out. So what do you guys think? Will Erica Wheeler stay in Indiana and help lead the Fever to a new era, or is she ready to move on? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I want to hear what you think about her future. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Erica Wheeler's plans and the Fever's transformation, for more WNBA updates, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll be covering everything related to Caitlin Clark's Fever and the rest of the league, so make sure to enable those notifications so you don't miss anything. That's all for today. Until the next time, stay tuned and keep hooping.